Hey everyone, RedRaz here.
So weird. It's like...
Was there ever a moment you had whilst playing Doors where you thought of a question similar to, I wonder how Doors got its inspiration, or is this game based on something? Look no further though, because if you were to take a gander at the credits and scroll down to the bottom, you can see 3 different sources of inspiration for Doors. The first game is Spelunky, a cave diving platformer roguelite that is probably the reason why Doors sends you right back to the beginning instead of having checkpoints throughout, and may have served as inspiration for the mines section of the game. The second game is Rooms by NicoRocks5555, which happens to be featured in Doors, or depending on when this video comes out, was in Doors, since it is getting replaced soon. Rooms is probably what inspired the hiding mechanics that the game has, being forced to go into a locker to hide from a speeding PNG image. If you were paying attention, you'll know that there's one more game that inspired Doors, and also probably the reason Rooms was even made at all. It's a game made as a parody of other horror games at the time, poking fun at cheap jump scares, yet paying respect to lots of different media while still having its own flavor of terrifying horror. To top it off, it has an actual comprehensible story that Doors clearly did not inherit, as indicated by the lack of a game theory for it, since you can actually figure it out on your own, unlike Doors. That game, the one that is potentially the only reason Doors may even exist, is none other than... Kinda sounds like Plankton. Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion, or otherwise known as Spooky's House of Jumpscares before the lawsuit hit, was released in 2014 and published on Steam in 2015 by Lag Studios, consisting of the pair of Akuma Kira and AMG Sheena, and their game fit right in with the bygone era of horror's Let's Plays. Its gameplay is incredibly simple, just run through 1,000 rooms, encounter various evil specimens, and try not to die. With just that description alone, it would be pretty easy to write off this game as an underbaked cheap horror game. But the thing is that not only was the game going for that vibe, it transcended beyond it too. Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion had genuinely unsettling monster designs that reference many big-name horror games such as Resident Evil, classic horror movies like Ring, and even small, unknown indie horror games such as Five Nights at Freddy's. With all the things this game had going for its horror, I'm sure you can see where Doors might have drawn its inspiration from, such as the procedurally generated rooms, certain monster designs, or even the mere presence of paintings, which is a reference to Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion apparently, at least according to the wiki. I'm sure if you're watching this video you already know a lot about Doors, so I'll pivot over to Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion. Do note that I'm mostly going to be focusing on the parts that inspired Doors, so if you're looking for a summary of the entire game, then you've come to the wrong place. But if you just want to see the parts of Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion that you can point at and go, OMG, it's like hit Roblox game Doors, then stay a while, because that's what I'm here to do. Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion, as I already mentioned, was released in 2014, but it also got a separate HD renovation too. The original one is free, but only has 2D specimen sprites along with some other graphical differences such as the UI, and doesn't come with one of its 2 DLCs, being Karamari Hospital, which costs $2. On the other hand, the HD renovation will cost you $10, has 3D modeled specimens, comes with Karamari Hospital, and a lot of other changes that would take way too long to list out. For this video, I'll be focusing on the HD renovation as it's the one I played for my footage. There are 4 main modes to the game, being the standard 1000 Rooms of Hell, Endless Mode, Karamari Hospital, and finally, the Dollhouse. The 1000 Rooms mode has 13 different specimens you can encounter, not including minor enemies such as these deer, which are in serious need of some dental. Endless Mode features the same 13 specimens, although some of them will only appear once, and also includes an additional 5 specimens unique to Endless Mode and certain enemies from the 2 DLCs. Karamari Hospital features 6 different enemies called monsters, and plays more similarly to a Resident Evil game, having you navigate through set rooms solving puzzles rather than a string of randomly generated rooms. The Dollhouse features 7 different enemies, all of them actually having their own names such as Wormy Charles. Booting up the game, we're given a brief exposition about a mansion at the top of the hill that no one knows anything about. We play as an unnamed protagonist that we aren't giving much information about, but we are told that they're an avid history enthusiast, so if I mention them again, it would be as avid history enthusiast or just history enthusiast. Starting its main 1000 Rooms mode, we meet Spooky real fast and then continue on our merry way. The first specimen that is encountered are these cardboard cutouts, which loudly spring out from the wall to get in your way and not much more. This specimen does seem to be the inspiration behind Jack in Doors though, both of them serving as a cheap jump scare and getting in your way. The only difference aside from drastically different designs is that Specimen 1 springs up from the walls and Jack only appears in closets or doors. It's also possible to encounter this room type, often referred to as abyss rooms, with huge pits and branching paths, one of which could be a dead end, which is pretty similar to Holt's appearance in the mines. Holt's room consists of different bridges, with some of them being completely destroyed, just like how an abyss room can essentially force you into a 50-50, where if you're wrong can potentially force you to run into a chasing specimen. Just like how I got completely obliterated by Holt in this footage because I ran into a dead end. Once you hit room 60, you'll find a pile of green goo on the ground and a note on the table.
Spouting, splashing, soaking, innards, ingest, invoking, nailing, never stops the choking.
Once you put the note down, you'll encounter the first real chase of the game, being Specimen 2. This floating green goopy monster with a large mouth and sharp fingers that rises out from the pile of goo I mentioned earlier. As it chases you, it'll spawn more piles of goop that heavily slow you down when you're moving through them, and it can also float over pits such as the one seen in the Abyss room. It is fairly slow though, making it pretty easy to outrun, and even if you get hit, it only deals 45 damage on a cooldown of 2 seconds, giving you ample time to get away while it is recovering. You might have had the thought that this sounds kinda similar to Seek, and you would be on the right track because Specimen 2 and Seek do share a handful of characteristics. Both of them comprise of goo, rise up from a puddle of goo, and if you want to stretch it a little bit, they both have their own goopy forms, with Specimen 2's puddles and becoming a puddle if you hit it with your axe that you obtain later in the game, and Seek's final encounter in the mines being almost entirely goop. I forgot to mention that as our avid history enthusiast is progressing through the mansion, you can find notes written by different characters, with the first character being known as the romantic victim. They write about their unromantic situation not being able to escape the mansion at all, with their last note being them coming to terms with their death and finding a way to see their death as a romantic one, since it gave them an escape from everything else. After this note, you can find their skeleton in the next elevator, and this character could be the inspiration behind the Bob character that can appear indoors at the shop. Granted, you can't interact with the romantic victim's corpse, but hey, looks like he went out looking snazzy. Now for the next thing that definitely inspired Doors, we're gonna have to speedrun to the very end of the 1000 Rooms mode. Meet Specimen 9, the final boss and what the Doors entity, Haste, is based off of. Specimen 9 can also appear if you idle for at least a minute and looks fairly different if you do so. So here's what he looks like if you were to idle. Pretty striking resemblance with Haste, I must say. And I guess they both do have spawning conditions relating to time, with Specimen 9 requiring you to idle for 1 minute, and Haste requiring you to run out of time. But there's one more thing about Haste that was definitely taken straight out of Specimen 9's book, being their death screen. If we compare the two, we can see just how similar they are, both covering the screen in a wall of text that just repeats their own mantras, with Specimen 9's mantra being to take the dead, and Haste being no time left. There's some other things in the 1000 Rooms mode that might have served as inspiration for some stuff indoors. Some things include the shadows in Specimen 4's room being similar to the shadow that can appear indoors, or Specimen 13's scythe possibly being the inspiration behind the groundskeeper's scythe, but these are a bit of a stretch or too generic to confidently claim as inspirations for Doors. There's also the skeleton key in Doors and this one skull door in room 310, which the Doors wiki states might have been the inspiration for the skeleton key, so I guess it is. For the next thing that inspired Doors, we're gonna have to skip past Endless Mode and Karamari Hospital to go straight to Spooky Jumpscare Mansion's final DLC, the Dollhouse. There's a minor enemy in this mode called Frenzy, who appears when this doll that you're carrying around gets too scared. All it will do is rush you down and deal a slight amount of damage before disappearing. When it comes to Frenzy's design, it's pretty clear that it's the inspiration behind Sally's design in Doors, both being near pitch black, white eyes, and the messy hair, although Sally's hair is much more spiky unlike Frenzy's, which is mostly down. Gameplay wise, they aren't identical, but still share a couple of similarities, both being somewhat infrequent chaser type enemies that disorient you when they make contact with you. And to date, that's pretty much all the obvious details about Doors that were inspired from Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion. I would love to talk about this game more, especially some of the other specimens, because there's a lot to say about them, but I wanted to keep a focus on the ones that had an impact on Doors. Maybe I can find an excuse to talk about this game again someday, like, oh, I don't know, the random update that's gonna visually overhaul every single specimen, but surely that wouldn't happen, right? I mean, the game is a decade old at this point, so they're probably done with it. Anyways, hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the inspiration behind Doors. If you want to know more about this game, I'll definitely check out one of these videos on screen. Have a good day, and in case it's a different time for you, a good evening and night. Thanks for watching.